What if one of the most iconic movies of the 90s, Good Will Hunting, had been directed by none other than Mel Gibson? That's right. Before Gus Van Sant brought us the Oscar-winning masterpiece we all know, Mel Gibson, the visionary behind Braveheart and The Passion of the Christ.
And the Oscar goes to Mel Gibson for Braveheart.
Was the first in line to direct. So what happened? Why did this exciting collaboration fall apart? And how might the film have turned out differently if Gibson had stayed in the director's chair? From casting choices to creative clashes, we're diving into the untold story of Good Will Hunting, what could have been. Stick around to discover the surprising twists that shaped the movie. And don't forget to subscribe if you love behind-the-scenes Hollywood stories like this one. Back in the mid-90s, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck were both young actors and writers with high aims. They had written an incredibly moving and intensely intimate story, but they lacked a director who could make it a reality. Eager to get the movie done, Affleck and Damon first requested Kevin Smith to direct it. Although Smith declined their request, he gave the script to Harvey Weinstein, who was blown away by it. But due to some reasons, Harvey also failed to direct the movie. From there, Gibson entered into the scene. Gibson was enjoying the popularity of Braveheart at that time. "We met with Mel Gibson," Affleck explained during an interview, "and Braveheart had just come out and was as hot as it could be, but we hadn't seen Braveheart." And Harvey was like, "You haven't seen Braveheart? Effing lie to him and tell him you love Braveheart." So the first thing we said was, "We just want to tell you how much we love Braveheart." At first, Gibson was thrilled by the story. He found possibilities in Will Hunting's unfiltered emotional journey as a promising young man from South Boston's filthy streets who was struggling with his sense of self. But in spite of the early interest, Gibson ultimately made the decision to leave the project. Why? Ben Affleck and Matt Damon had a unique and emotional idea for their story. Gibson's idea wasn't quite in line with the style and direction that Damon passionately stood for. He at one point said directly to Gibson, "Look man, we're getting too old. If this keeps going by, Ben and I can't play these parts. Is there any chance you just let it go?" Realizing the value of the writer's intention, Gibson politely moved away. Besides, his schedule was getting much busier. His time and attention were largely focused on the Passion of the Christ's production. So Gibson left Good Will Hunting due to a combination of these reasons, which allowed somebody else to take over as director. Before moving on to Gibson's impact on the picture, tell us whether you believe that Damon and Affleck's determination on sticking to their original plan was a wise decision, or the movie would have been different if they had made more compromises with Gibson. Let's now engage in some creative guesswork. What if Good Will Hunting had been directed by Gibson? As we all know, Gibson's storytelling is famous for its emotional depth and epic scale. His films usually explore the deepest levels of human glory, as well as tragedy. Therefore, if he had been in charge, Good Will Hunting probably would have had a darker, more dramatic tone. Gibson's talent for capturing genuine human emotions may have highlighted a different aspect of Will's personality, highlighting the suffering and crisis of his traumatic background. Under Gibson's direction, the therapy sessions between Will and Sean may have been considerably more intense. Imagine the "it's not your fault" scene, but with an even greater sentimental intensity and physical buildup. Gibson's directing may have highlighted the conflict and final victory in an honest and pure manner. If we talk about the casting process, it is one of the most interesting parts of movie making, and Good Will Hunting was certainly not an exemption. The casting options were nearly limitless when Gibson began to direct the movie. It's possible that Robin Williams' famous portrayal of Sean Maguire may have never happened. Given his huge Hollywood contracts, Gibson may have turned to more skilled actors to take on this crucial part. Imagine Gene Hackman or Anthony Hopkins as Sean Maguire. Hackman's strong and direct manner, or Hopkins' composed yet commanding presence, would have provided a different sort of guidance that may have transformed the movie. In addition, there may have been more choices for the character of Will himself. Gibson's presence may have resulted in alternative casting choices, even though it's difficult to see anybody besides Matt Damon in the role. These possibilities would have provided a new flavor to the story. Moreover, A darker and more realistic visual aesthetic may have been there if Gibson had directed Good Will Hunting. The Boston backdrop, which is already a character in itself, might have been shown with a rougher, maybe even depressing tone that would have reflected the individual's inner conflicts. As Gibson's movies frequently tackle the unfiltered violent parts of human existence, such an approach may have resulted in a depiction of Will's path that focused more on his tough battle against his own dark forces. Also, in order to point out the brutal truth of Will's background and the obstacles that he was attempting to overcome, the scenes in South Boston would have been more lifelike. Now, let's discuss Gibson's possible changes to some of the film's most important sequences. Let's again look at the scene "It's Not Your Fault" that we previously talked about. This part may have been much more intense if Gibson had directed it. How? Well, Gibson's capacity to capture the genuine emotional essence of a situation might have, in fact, heightened the scene with a more exciting suspense and resolution. Viewers may have had an entirely different sense of emotions in the bar scenes. Therapy sessions and academic disputes had been shown with more intensity and dangers. Furthermore, Gibson's adaptation may have placed a strong focus on Will's darker psychological traits, as well as tragic encounters. Also, more emotions may have been used to highlight Will's resistance in the sequences concerning his academic struggles and his unwillingness to accept his potential. This strategy may have produced a movie that seemed more like a psychological drama than Van Sant's ultimate optimistic story. Well, how would the whole mood of the movie have changed if these parts had been portrayed with more intensity? Would it have minimized the more delicate scenes or enhanced the film's appeal? Let us know in the comments. So after Gibson left, the movie ended up in the hands of Gus Van Sant, a filmmaker with a totally unique style. Van Sant was well known for his independent filmmaking and his specific, sometimes contemporary aesthetic. His involvement signaled a major shift in the narrative of the movie, as his approach was more personal and grounded, highlighting the hidden beauty of a daily life. Along with the delicate performances, the final version of Good Will Hunting was greatly impacted. Van Sant's method closely matched Damon and Affleck's personal concept for their narrative. He was skilled at catching the silent, reflective moments that display the strong meaning. Therefore, as far as the change in tone was concerned, Good Will Hunting adopted a more reflective and genuine tone under Van Sant's guidance. The grand drama gave way to a more intimate, character-driven story. Additionally, Van Sant's delicate touch made the characters' weaknesses more apparent than they could have under Gibson's guidance. This change in tone greatly increased the movie's sense of connection and relatability, which helped it succeed. Let's now examine how Gus Van Sant's directing took the story to a whole new level. Every shot shows how he influenced Good Will Hunting. His talent draw out subtle responses from his performers gave the movie a genuineness that many found interesting. The entire movie revolved around the characters' profound feelings and sensitivity, especially during Will and Sean's therapy sessions. The characters were able to establish a very intimate connection with the viewers because of Van Sant's attention to the quiet, delicate moments. Also, Van Sant directed the movie to strike a balance between the warmth of Will's connections and the suspense of his problems. This harmony produced an engaging story that was uplifted and emotionally powerful. So, the finished version became a story about healing, optimism, and the strength of interpersonal relationships. Furthermore, the subtle depiction of Will's relationships, whether with his therapist Sean, girlfriend Skylar, or closest friends, showcase Van Sant's touch. His impact is most evident in the modest, understated scenes, such as Will's teasing of his pals, or the sincere discussions with Sean. Under Gibson's direction, these sequences would have been very different, possibly more dramatic and less concerned with the delicate development of human interactions. Van Sant also contributed a unique visual aesthetic to the movie. Known for his realistic style, he made the Boston location a crucial part of the movie, rather than only a background. The streets, pubs, and libraries of the city gave the movie a fantastic sense, a factor Gibson might not have done with more intensity. How do you believe Van Sant's focus on places and relationships improved the realistic tone of the movie? Would Gibson's theatrical style have given depth or overpowered these aspects? While you consider these possibilities, let's have a quick look at the appreciation the movie got. Following Gus Van Sant's directing, Good Will Hunting won several awards and honors, plus became a critical and financial success. The movie got 9 Academy Award nominations while winning 2 Oscars, which included Best Supporting Actor for Robin Williams, as well as Best Original Screenplay for Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. The film's depiction of emotional and psychological challenges struck a chord with viewers all around the world, and the performances, especially those of Damon, Affleck, and Williams, were highly praised. Moreover, Box Office Mojo reported that the movie made over $225 million worldwide. Also, this reception had a long-lasting effect on the makers' careers. In addition to becoming well-known, Damon and Affleck's script served as a model for other emerging writers. The movie's discussion of subjects like emotional recovery, intellectual ability, and the value of supporting relationships never fails to uplift and impact both viewers as well as producers. As we sit here and envision what Good Will Hunting may have been under Mel Gibson's guidance, it's obvious that the movie might have taken an entirely different direction. The story's impact on people may have changed if Gibson had been a filmmaker, because he might have added a darker, more dramatic tone. Though thinking on these possibilities is interesting, Gus Van Sant's final version of Good Will Hunting became a treasured classic that moved millions of people. Together, Damon, Affleck, and Van Sant created a movie that beautifully captured the complexities of human emotion, as well as the journey towards self-discovery. Their collaboration is a testament to the power of storytelling and the impact that different creative visions can have on a project. Would Mel Gibson's adaptation of Good Will Hunting have achieved the same level of popularity? Let us know what you think in the comments section below. And don't forget to subscribe to Director's Cut for more behind the scenes from Hollywood's best movies.